It is now 7 o'clock, June 24th, 2021, and I call this meeting of the Bellevue Planning Commission to order. Please join me and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ask for a roll call.
Mr. Casey?
Here.
Mr. Perrin? Ms. Kane? Mr. Arney?
Present.
Mr. Ritz?
Here.
Mr. Ackley?
Here.
Mr. Hankins?
Here.
Ms. Cutsforth?
Present.
Mr. Jacobson?
This meeting will be conducted according to the Open Meetings Act, a copy of which can be found in the back of the vestibule. We do have a little bit of weather tonight. Someone is monitoring all the warnings. If there is any issue, we will announce it and go to the safe areas. Otherwise, we're going to continue as normal tonight. I would ask at this time that all the commissioners and audience members please silence your cell phones. At this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the May 27th, 2021 regular meeting.
So moved.
Motion by Ackley and second
Casey.
by Casey.
All voted yes, motion carried.
At this time, I would entertain a motion to accept into record all staff reports, attachments, memos, and handouts regarding each application. Has there been any updates?
No updates.
I make a motion to accept into record all staff reports, attachments, memos, and handouts regarding each application.
Motion by Cutsforth,
Second by Hankins.
second by Hankins.
All voted yes, motion carried.
We have nothing on the consent agenda tonight. We have two public hearings. I will read each into record, ask for an update from the staff, then open it up for public hearing. After the public hearing, the commissioners will then discuss. I ask that everyone obey the golden rule, treat others as you wish to be treated. I do reserve the right to limit everyone's testimony to 3 minutes or less. If you do come up, please sign and state your name and address for the record. Our first item, 3A, request to rezone lots 1 through 5, Svensson Acres replat 1 being a replat of lot 1 Svensson Acres and a platting of tax lots D9H, D9D, D9C, and D9B, all located in the northwest quarter of Section 16, Township 14N, R13E of the 6th Prime Meridian, Sarpy County, Nebraska, from BGH and BNH to BGH and RG50 for the purpose of the existing commercial and residential development. Preliminary plat lots 1 through 5, Svensson Acres replat 1, final plats of lots 1 through 5, Svensson Acres Replat 1, and waiver of Section 6-4 subdivision regulations, street design standards. Applicant Svensson Real Estate LLC. General location 3501 Harrison Street. Case numbers Z-2105-05, S-2105-08, and S-2105-09. Staff, could you give us a briefing on this?
Sure. These requests are for existing development near 35th and Harrison Street. This request involves some replatting of property lines in addition to rezoning. Two of the properties are currently being used commercially, while there are 3 residential structures on the property as well. At the present time, the entire property is zoned commercial. It has commercial zoning of both BNH as well as BGH. Prior to our current zoning ordinance being adopted in 2011, it was allowed to have, under the pyramidal zoning structure, it was allowed that you could have residential structures in a commercial zoning as a permitted use. We made these structures legal nonconforming when we updated the zoning ordinance back in 2011. So this request will essentially bring all of the properties into conformance. The waiver request is for currently, there is a private drive that serves the 3 residences. Waiver request is to avoid the street standards for a private street, which by definition is what that should be. Staff has no objection with that. Again, this is all existing development. We're not adding anything. We're not adding new structures. And staff would prefer that there are not additional drives onto Harrison Street and that we leave the current situation as is. There are already easements in place for that access. The platting will not change that.
Thank you. Is the applicant present and wish to speak on this matter?
Patrick J. Sullivan, 1246 Golden Gate Drive for the applicant. She actually had a funeral tonight, so she could not be here. I'm glad to be up here, and I wanted to be noted that I'm bringing you a simple request that's non-controversial. So I'll just answer any questions you have. Jeff Stoll is also here with the ENA.
Thank you. I will open it up to public hearing first. And is there anybody from the public that wishes to speak on the matter for or against? Seeing no one, I'm going to close the public hearing on this and open it up to the commissioners. Commissioners, your wishes?
If there's no questions or comments, I guess I'd be prepared to make a motion. None, I'd recommend approval of this application based on conformance with the zoning ordinance, subdivision regulations, and lack of a perceived negative impact to the surrounding area.
I'll second that.
Motion by Ackley, second by Cutsforth.
All voted yes, motion carried.
This item will go for public hearing in front of the City Council on July 20th. The next public hearing is item 3B, request to rezone Lot 1, Redwood 25, being a platting of tax lot 4F, located in the northwest quarter of Section 27, Township 14N, R13E of the 6th Prime Meridian, Sarpy County, Nebraska, from AG to RG 28-PS for the purpose of multifamily residential development with site plan approval. Preliminary plat Lot 1, Redwood 25, and final plat Lot 1, Redwood 25. Applicant Redwood USA LLC, general location South 25th Street and Cornhusker Road. Case numbers Z-2105-06, S-2106-12, and S-2106-13. Staff, could you give us a brief on this?
Sure. The applicant is requesting a change of zone for a property to facilitate a multi-family residential development. Property is currently undeveloped and zoned ag. The applicant's request will rezone it to RG28 PS. The PS allows for the planned subdivision overlay and will allow for multiple buildings on one lot. Currently, this property is in the future land use map as medium density residential. The applicant's request is in conformance with that plan. What Redwood is looking to do is single-story units. They have a presentation, so they'll be able to give more detail about the types of residents they typically get, and as also more details about the units and the appearance of those. These will be private streets. The site plan shows two connections for this development, connecting to Jamestown Drive to the south, and also connecting out to South 25th Street as well. In addition to those private streets, if you will notice on the plat, one of the things that the city requested of the developer is we requested they dedicate right-of-way along the northern boundary. Angela, if you could zoom out on the GIS. This application kind of came in a timely manner. If you could zoom back out, show more of the commercial area. Thanks. The city had been looking at what to do about the congestion near 21st and Cornhusker and 23rd and Cornhusker. Anyone here who has gone to Menards, has been back on Pratt Avenue, is aware of how busy it is. Can you zoom in a little tighter, Angela? Thank you. So one of the things that we looked at was when this site plan came in, the northernmost property of the plat was not going to be utilized by the applicant. As you can tell, the northern boundary of this property can potentially line up with South 21st Street that empties into Menards. The city's in the very preliminary stages of planning for this. We're double checking to make sure it's feasible. We're working with OPPD now because there's high voltage power lines in the area, but we are hopeful that the city will be able to construct a road that will provide another connection from South 21st Street all the way out to South 25th Street. Again, at this point, showing the dedication on the plat. Over the next couple of months, as the developer goes through the approval process, if they are ultimately approved, the city will be working on an interlocal agreement with the developer to facilitate that infrastructure. Again, developer will have no cost to that. That will be city, but things will have to be worked out, such as grading, making sure the city is not upsetting whatever grading or whatever construction the developer already has done at the time the city would potentially come in and construct that street. City is not requesting any of the private streets connect to that future arterial. There would be a connection at South 23rd Street, connection at South 21st Street only. Other than that, I'll turn it over to Redwood if they want to go ahead and do their presentation, and then we can open it up for public hearing and questions.
Go.
Make sure you sign in too.
Oh, sure. Thank you.
And state your name and address for the record.
My name is Paul DeCreif, and I'm with Redwood, 7007 East. Oh, thank you. Awesome. Thank you. Pleasant Valley Road, Independence, Ohio. I'm joined this evening by John Coolidge with Lambright Earson. And on behalf of our firms, I'd like to thank staff for all their help with this project, as well as your time and consideration of it. Before I begin, though, and talk about our project, I want to spend just a minute talking about Redwood and who we are in the only way that I know how, and that's openly and honestly. And you can see all of our core values on the right-hand side of our presentation. Core value, open and honest communication is core value number 5. It's not just words that me and my colleagues read. It's how we do business and how we've done successful business. And one of the ways in which we've done that is to adhere to core value number 1, and that's do one thing really well. And that one thing that we've done really well since 1991 is build 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage, single-story townhome rental neighborhoods. We started this, or Steve Kimmelman started this company with just a few simple goals, and that was to create remarkable stress-free homes. To date, we have over 100 neighborhoods throughout the Midwest. I'll show you in a minute our floor plan or our footprint. We have about 13,000 units, all of which we've never sold. We've never sold a single one. And that's in part because we're not just simply building a new Redwood community, but we're building a company. This is our footprint. This is where we currently exist. Out east in the Carolinas, and we're making our way west. We're in Des Moines. That's the closest project that we have to Omaha. And really, all of this doesn't happen by accident. There's over 400 experts, apartment experts at Redwood that deliver results every day to our residents. And it is also that unique design that we have. We're like no other for-rent traditional apartment product. Our buildings are different. Residents enter through street-like aisles, private street-like aisles, all paved with concrete, 12-mile posted speed limits, and park in garages, not on surfaces. Our amenities are different. We celebrate open space. And again, our residents are different. Often our rents equate to the cost of owning a $250,000 to $350,000 home. And it's really that unique design that allows us to manage like no other traditional apartment rental or townhome HOA. We have rules and regulations that everyone must follow. Everyone over 18 submits to a criminal and economic background check, so there's no felons. So who are our residents? Our residents are empty nesters, young professionals, those who want a peace and quiet design. And again, I'll just go down to the bottom and say that again, it's that unique design that allows us to create a long-term resident. Let's dig a little deeper into who our residents are. In our portfolio, our average age of 13,000 units, our average age is 50.6 years. 70% are empty nesters. Most come from a 3-mile radius, so they're already residents, they're already your neighbors, and 1.65 residents per unit, 1.5 cars per home, 11 school-aged children per 100 homes. Our average stay is 2.39 years, and 12% stay for over 5 years, all on annual renewable leases. So let's talk a little bit about the exteriors of our product. Again, single-story apartment rental neighborhoods, 2-car attached private entrance garages, personal patios, concrete. So again, all of our private roads are concrete, our driveways are concrete, our sidewalks are concrete, and our back patios are all concrete. This is built to last. Stone and shake siding accent, extensive landscaping, construction and management ADA and GSE compliant. That means we're a great age-in-place solution. 0 threshold entrances. they're consistently maintained. You can go to any Redwood neighborhood, whether it's 12 months old or 12 years old, and the biggest difference you're going to see is the size of the trees. Front and rear garage loaded units. So we mix up our units. We don't just pick one and repeat it throughout. Here's the interiors of our units. Our smallest unit is 1,300 square feet, open concept floor plans, granite countertops, private entryways, full volumes, vaulted ceilings, Energy Star certified construction, and luxury vinyl plank flooring, just to name a few items. What I wanted to do is have you focus your attention briefly to the picture on the right. That's the view you get out of most Redwood windows and out into the neighborhood. You're not looking at another big building or a parking lot sea of pavement. It's very different than a traditional apartment. So this is our floor plan. Again, attached private garage. Our smallest unit is about 1,300 square feet, and our largest is about 1,600 square feet. High-end accent paint, walk-in closet, walk-in kitchen pantry. Where are you going to find that anywhere else? High-end design and with fixtures, lever interior door handles, high-end finished appliances, full washer, dryer, hookups. Here's our other floor plans. That one in the middle I wanted to just point your attention to. That's the Haydenwood. That's our rear-loaded garage product. So the top of that picture is a porch-like entrance. So it just creates a little bit of variation. So let's talk about our site here. As Tammy described it, it is currently an undeveloped site. And it is also called out in the master plan, Bellevue's master plan, for residential with a max density of 15.5 units or 400 total units, 15.5 units per acre or 400 total units. Let's look at our site. Site summary, 26.975 acres, 131 units are planned. That's 4.85 units per acre, 20 buildings in total. Again, 2 covered garage spaces and 2 driveway spaces, so 4 in total. We estimate that our current rents will, for our smallest unit, that's the unit that's just under 1,300 square feet, would start out at around $1,700 before utility expenses or other fees. We have met the maximum lot width, the maximum height, our landscaping depth has been met. Our building to lot coverage is 16.7 versus 60 that's called out in the comp plan. We exceed parking spaces by 3 per unit, and as well as we far exceed accessible ADA parking spaces. Again, on this photo, South 25th is on the left-hand side, and Cornhusker is up at the top of this photo. The site plan, again, was restricted by the high-tension wires at the top of this site plan, as well as a gas line running through the middle. We connect to 25th, as well as to Jamestown, which turns into Hogantown. I call your attention briefly to the schematic for our landscaping, really only to accentuate how much landscaping we'll be providing. We're going to install 124 trees and 252 shrubs on the site. Here's our parking analysis that I wanted to provide you. Again, having 13,000 units affords us a great deal of data to analyze. As you can see on the left-hand side, there's 3 examples that we provide to you from 2010. In the middle is a property that's about the same size is what we're proposing here. And I want to compare that to the one to the right. It's about 100 there, and there's about 100 on the other one. You can note the consistency in peak AM and PM traffic. I don't know if the resolution, I have photos. I'm going to just go back here and stop here. I'll stop there. I had some more photos of the interior, and the resolution doesn't seem to be pulling up here. So with that, I'm here to answer any questions that you might have, as well as John Coolidge from Lamb Ryan Earson. Thank you. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Public hearing. Public hearing on this matter is now open. If anyone that would like to speak on the record for or against this matter, please come up to the podium, say your name and address for the record, and sign in.
It's probably too tall for me now. Push the down button, maybe. Oh, here, on a piece of paper. I'm not signing on his computer, I assume. My name is Carol Edgren. I'm a resident of Bellevue for 50 years. I lived in my current residence at 10603 South 18th Circle for 21 years. Menards is my backyard neighbor. Sam and I are on first name basis. He will do anything and everything that I ask. He's been a great neighbor. I have both objections and suggestions. One of my biggest objections is probably like a non-issue, because I imagine that property is going to get developed at some point, but it's been that way for 20 years since hot dog water slides or whatever it was called went away. Developing that property will devastate hundreds, if not thousands, of trees and enormous wildlife, which Bellevue is known for. I get regular visits from possums, raccoons. I had a red fox like 2 weeks ago, turkeys. The picture that you have of that lot is either from wintertime or from years ago. I walked the lot just today, and there are way, way, way more trees there than you see now. So again, if it's going to be developed at some point, I probably would rather see retail. I think that they are better neighbors, and that there would be far less traffic that would come into our neighborhood. Specific objections that I have are with the entrance to Jamestown. If the neighborhood has to have two entrances, and if you're considering the road, which my understanding would run east to west, east from Menards, already south of Donna Millie's Burger King, and on. I'm not sure how it would cut through from DJ's, like at what point it would exit onto 25th, but if their neighborhood would connect north onto that road, that could be their second entrance or exit and out onto 25th, in addition to their direct exit to there. Willow Springs has been a cut-through neighborhood for years, and it's only gotten worse with a real retail of Walmart, which is great. It's nice to have that retail. I've seen more retail go than come in Bellevue. I remember South Roads when it was a full-blown mall. I remember downtown Bellevue when it wasn't Old Town Bellevue, when Hested's and Haney's and the movie theater were all there. I've been around that long. I was gone for a matter of a few years overseas. My dad was stationed there, and a few years post-college. Otherwise, I came back to Bellevue. My children were 1 and 4 at the time. They're now 25 and 29. We still live in that house, and I own a second house, again, in what is now referred to as Old Town Bellevue, unfortunately. More specific objections to this neighborhood specifically. If we're going to have apartments, they're lovely, but they're still apartments. they're still transients. 2.3 years of occupation is nothing to brag about, in my opinion. Again, I've lived in my house for 21 years. I don't think people who live in apartments will have the respect or the allegiance to the town, to the neighborhood, that people who own homes in Willow Springs do. I object to the 3-pet limit that they advertise. I don't think that they have grounds large enough or yards big enough to support a 3-pet limit. I don't know exactly what Bellevue's limit is, thinking it's 2 dogs and 3 cats. But if someone were allowed to have 2 dogs or 3 dogs in a teeny tiny apartment house neighborhood, I think that that's too much. Again, I guess one of my objections was, again, if 23rd Street went through, which I'm guessing is that like off the table as you discuss that that transverse road from east to west, because I guess my fear, if the road exited out of the neighborhood onto Jamestown, again, which has become a cut-through neighborhood, people south, Tregaron, Castlewood, south and west, use that Hogantown pass-through to get to retail and high school. I recall a time that the council attempted to shut that exit off under the bridge, which the SID, I was on the SID board way back then, paid for, the city, I think, and or the SID paid for to have that underpass created, and the city council actually tried to shut it just because of traffic. So again, I feel for the people. I'm in a circle, and a lot of that neighborhood is circles, but the part that's not, the Hogantown to Jamestown, is a cut through, and that just offers more access, for people headed off to the retail instead of out to 25th. I guess back to, sorry to ramble a little bit, I don't have my PowerPoint with me, just some points. I would probably be back here again if 23rd Street were to go through into that neighborhood and then into Jamestown, because the last thing that we need is for inebriated people leaving DJs or all of that excessive retail traffic at Menards to exit into our neighborhood. So again, I would hope that there's no consideration for extending 23rd into the neighborhood and then on into Jamestown if that neighborhood is to be built. I guess the last thing that I would request, again, based on the pictures, it would appear that they are going to be building right up to the outside Menards yard. That's the way that the picture looks, and the map that they sent was. I would request that they be required to put up a privacy fence around the exterior at minimum where it passes Willow Springs neighbors, and so that there is no access like from their yard to ours. Those of us in, Willow Circle and 18th Circle who specifically back to that have probably chain link fences and no privacy fences, because there's no need for that. And so I don't think it should be at our expense that we have to put up privacy fences. I also have one more concern for, if you pop that picture back up, there is a buffer, a true buffer that is behind Menards. It looks pretty tiny right there, but it's just, where you see their outside big long silver building, that buffer, my fear is that, and then just a little bit south of that building, right there, that buffer is actually quite large, and it is nothing more than a buffer. So my fear without a fence is that that will be used as a green space or a park or a dog run, which it is not. It is pure buffer between the neighbors, at least a few of us. I don't think it quite extends to 18th Circle or Willow Circle. I would like to see a fence from there and then all the way along the back of Willow Springs or Willow Circle, and 18th Circle neighbors that could directly have, people from their tiny yards into our yards. I think that's the extent of, my last one. If if this neighborhood is exiting onto 25th, and in addition, just for future, if that road goes through from 21st to 25th, I don't know who sets speed limits, but the area between Cornhusker and 370 is the absolute only stretch of 25th Street that has a 45-mile-an-hour speed limit. Otherwise, it's 25 or 35. And so I would hope that whoever or whatever dictates speed limit on that road would be changed to be 35 so that we can access, again, our own neighborhoods and get out onto 25th with the additional traffic that would be coming through at a reasonable speed limit. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Maria Yearwood, and I'm at 2314 Willow Circle. I don't have too much of a problem with the expansion of the city.
Make sure that you're speaking into the mic because that's what the records is.
Sorry. I don't have too much of a problem with the expansion of the city, but my concern is a lot of what she brought up just now. Where I'm at, I'm on a cul-de-sac, and my land borders the southern part of where they're going to build. My concerns is that a part of that land, the previous owner has buffered against the houses that are against that land, that we connect to that land. And so my concern is, how close is this development going to be built? How close is someone else's yard going to butt up against my fence? The other concern is that road that is going through, coming out on Jamestown. I don't see why it has to come out, yes, right there. I don't see why it has to come out there. Why can't they exit up in the upper part going by DJ's where that upper road is partially built already for another entrance or exit? It's over a little right there. Instead of cutting through the neighborhood, because just as she stated that DJ's is right there, we don't need inebriated people coming through there. Kids are playing in the street. It's a dead-end area where a lot of kids play. We don't need people zooming through there, coming through there after they've left the bar with the kids playing in the street. It's a tight school zone in there where the buses come pick the kids up, okay? It's a quiet neighborhood. That Willow Springs is a quiet neighborhood, and I quite like it like that. The other thing is, what she said is that area, that buffer zone that we all have against our properties, we don't want it to turn into something where somebody is using it kind of like a dumping ground or something, the people that are living there. So what are they going to do about that? That is my concern, along with the road. That's all I have for today.
Thank you.
My name is Kirk Breyer. I'm at 2402 Yorktown Place. That's Breier. So more to the west side there. It'll show it as lot 58. We've got a bit of a buffer left by the SID and the city. And being a little bit off of the main path that's coming down through the south onto Jamestown, doesn't look like we'll be as directly affected, maybe. But I was wondering, back in February after that big freeze, there were a handful of folks out there surveying. And I walked up and asked the individual doing so what was going on. And he said, well, there's a planned subdivision coming in. They're going to build apartments. He didn't know much about it. But we just got to talking, and I asked him about, there's a low building in that drainage. And I was wondering what that was, some form of utility access. It's a little higher up in the picture there. But he said, yeah, that's what it was. He said, there's a 16-inch gas line running through. I've never seen one that big. It must be some form of, or some sort of thing to be concerned about. And I'm guessing that's why the proposed structure will go out in a U shape and avoid that drainage. And I'm assuming, too, that's the reason why there's not supposed to be an access going north out of the subdivision. That's why they would want the one going to the west, which is going to run right by that guy's house. He's going to have all that traffic. He's been there forever. We've been here since 1994, and I think that property's been for sale the whole time, so we figured this was coming sooner or later. And in fact, most of the subdivision to the right wasn't developed, to the east was not developed when we got here, so we got to watch it all kind of evolve over time. And as mentioned, the access back through to Menards opened things up quite a bit. So I was just wondering, since I have nothing to do with real estate or development, never had. Imagine many of you haven't either. So I don't know how you're viewing everything that's going on with this, but things like the sewage that's going to be added, the load on the sewage, utilities, the traffic that folks are discussing here. Who addresses all those, and where can we go to see reports that are done, the research papers, anything that is done to say, here's a concern, here's how it's been addressed? I know it's not everybody or individuals on the council here, but somehow we've got to be able to see that so we can see so we can know what we're talking about, where the discussion should go, what has already been done, and where we can then kind of reach in here, putting up concerns about things I'm not entirely sure about. And I basically don't know what to be concerned about yet, because I just don't know enough about it yet. But again, it's kind of making sense. Maybe you don't want to go out to the north. You'd need a light out there, yet another light on Cornhusker, if you're going to run that many cars out there. And if I understood correctly, 400 units. Let's say everybody has 2 cars. There's many 2-car families. So 800 more vehicles.
131 units.
Pardon?
131 units.
I figured I might have misread that, but I went for the stars. So, okay, thank you. But still, double occupants or double vehicles for all that, and they're going to go somewhere. And as mentioned, we've already had enough with folks coming through the area. And I think, again, was it folks moving into these places will generally be from within 3 miles, sir? Was that okay? I don't think so. I think we've got enough people moving through this area. I came here because of the Air Force. And so I'm from 900 miles away, but I've been here since 94 because once I got dropped here, I love this place. And enough people passing through don't really. I've seen that in a lot of places that we've lived where you can come to, you don't care, you don't live there. You don't have the roots, is I guess what I'm saying. And you do see a lot of people driving pretty ridiculously through that access down on the level, going around to Menards, running stop signs because they don't know they're there, in part because they don't live there, so you're just passing through. And understand that these folks will be here even if they're 2-3 years. Occupancy, they'll figure it out pretty quick, but still the traffic load just seems like it's going to be quite a bit. And if there is no other way out, then there is no other way out. But if anybody remembers when that right lane in Menards was being worked on a month or so ago, that just got stupid real quick. And I just see the potential for that developing. Okay, answer that. My understanding was the folks invited to come to this meeting were only those that were going to be affected immediately around that property.
By statute, the planning department mails out notices of property owners within 300 feet. We also
That's
put a
100
legal
yards, yeah.
We also put a legal ad in the newspaper, so anybody in the general public who reads those legal ads would know. And we publish the agenda.
How many people get the newspaper? But I'm saying everybody else within that subdivision, everybody off to the west side will be affected by this. So I was thinking it should have had broader, but if that's the regulation, that's the rule.
There are
Understood.
statutory requirements, and actually we only have to do 2 of 3 things. Put sign on the property, legal ad, and notice. We have to do the legal ad, which we did. We can do one of 2 other things, either the sign or notice. We always do both. So we did all 3 things as per statute.
I would trust, that would be done. Just a couple of questions that occurred to me. The landscaping, I was wondering, where does that responsibility end? I would hope that all the trees that are on the periphery do remain. That's kind of nice to have. We just enjoy that. That's just a personal thing. And there is a privacy element there until the leaves come off, and then it's all done. But when that landscaping is done, maybe that was a 400, you're gonna plant 400 trees and bushes. Where does that end? It's nice to plant things, but then when they die, then what happens? I was just wondering, that's another thing I'd like to be able to see in writing, if it's done through the council, if it's done through whatever organization that says these will be maintained, we will shoot for 30-foot trees or whatever those requirements come out to be. And finally, usually when new areas are built, they're named for the wildlife that is either killed or displaced. So you mentioned, I forgot about the possums. We get those all the time. Foxes, deer, raccoons, coyotes, and turkeys. It could be named after whatever is displaced. I know there has been a coyote den up in there because we've heard them and we've seen the young ones come out. And we've got foxes running through the neighborhood now. That's all nice, but just kind of like to acknowledge what was there. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Jody Young, and I live at 2410 Lewis and Clark Road. Even though my property does not abut the proposed Jamestown, I already get an excessive amount of traffic. I live right when you come in off of 370, that first corner to turn into. We have everybody, Plattsmouth people, Papillion people, you name it, cutting through the subdivision. And I'm the third house from 25th on the left-hand side on the corner of the cul-de-sac. There is a speed bump up closer towards the, I think it's Hogan Town at the stop sign. People don't pay attention. They fly through there on their cell phones, not paying attention. It's the cut through to Walmart. It's even more excessive now that we have the Planet Fitness, the extra apartment complex that you guys allowed to go in there. I understand there's another apartment complex approved on the other side of the hotels. So all this extra traffic coming through, you know, there's got to be something done. And I've heard that there's supposed to be a new road off of South 15th. I've lived in that house 3 years. In June 1st, the road is still in planning. There's always something wrong with it. COVID was last year. There's a gas line that needs to be moved. You know, this is where we live. This is where our grandchildren, our children are, and you know, it's not safe even with the speed bumps in there and the excessive traffic. So, you know, even though I'm not, you know, directly involved on that south side of the complex, they're going to escape somewhere. They're either going to come through and go out Lewis and Clark, or they're going to go out South 15th towards Walmart. So I would hope that, you know, we can maybe route this to the north out that direction, plus, you know, coming out on 25th at their own exit and entrance, versus coming in on one of the 2 that we already have coming out on 25th. Because again, like I said, I'm the third house. The traffic is ridiculous. I have called the police chief multiple times, and the semi trucks, they don't pay attention either. They come through. I've got lots and lots of pictures of those, and I report them as well, sneaking through to go to Walmart. So the traffic is my main concern. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Susan Bowling, and our address is 2408 Yorktown Place. So we're at the southern edge of the development. My concern also, I just wanted to confirm that if we get more traffic on Jamestown, a lot of, like the kids do board the bus there at the corner, and a lot of students in that area use that back road around by Walmart to go to Bellevue West. So there's a lot of traffic in that area. And another concern was on the drawing at the southern edge of the development were 2 storm basin drainage areas. And I'm wondering if there's going to be standing water there. Are we going to have a mosquito breeding place there? Just some concerns there. We've lived here 26 years at our address, so it's hard to see the development come through, but I know that's progress. So I just wanted to confirm everything. I agree with what everyone else has said about the traffic problem in that area. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak on the record for or against this? All right, at this time, I'm going to close. Oh.
Hello, my name is Brandon Horn. I currently reside at 2314 Willow Circle.
Make sure you sign in too.
Copy that. At my mother's address here. Like many of the others, my only real concern is the traffic that you guys intend to put through there, and I just think there's an alternative way of going about it, right? Maybe we discussed, or you guys discussed, you mentioned earlier about 23rd Street and how that might be a little congestive there, but I mean, it's a shopping complex kind of, and DJs, that's kind of what it's meant for, is just cars and traffic going through there. And the primary concern of, I think, all the residents was the connection to the road and then the butting up against the properties. And I think if the developer or the representative of the developer were to simply take note of that and either modify plans or think about spacing between the properties a little bit more, then the neighborhood would probably be a little more receptive to all the plans that are being made here today. And that was about all I had to say. I'm just going to write my name down.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else want to speak for on the record? All right. Seeing nobody, I'm going to close the public hearing and I'm going to turn it over to the commissioners.
One moment. I'm going to answer some questions, then also give the applicant an opportunity to answer some questions. I was kind of taking notes as people were speaking. Some of these questions I think are probably more directed at staff, and some the applicant or their engineer can handle. One issue that came up was in regards to pets. The city's zoning ordinance allows for 3 household animals over the age of 6 months. So it could be 3 dogs, 3 cats, 2 dogs, 1 cat, any combination thereof, but that's what's allowed by city ordinance. I assume they're mirroring the same, but that would be up to them. As far as the aerial photo and trees, that's a fairly new photo. That's a 2020 photo. GIS always does the flyovers, usually late March, early April. They don't want snow on the ground, but they want to get in before a lot of leaves and greenery bud. So that photo is just over a little over a year old. In regards to access, one thing I want people to understand is typically when a developer comes in, before they come to public hearing, there's usually about a year's worth of time where that developer has worked with city staff and other agencies on the development. Redwood came to us last year. We did many pre-application meetings. Yes, we shared a lot of the same concerns in regards to traffic, layout, impact. What you folks are seeing today is the result of many revisions over many months. As far as connection to Jamestown Drive, our subdivision regulations specifically prohibit dead-end streets. Those streets are always stubbed out to provide for a future connection. That's why that street is there. And that's specifically why the city wants them to connect. If you'll notice on their layout, you don't have any streets that are direct east, west, north, south. It is laid out as such that it's designed to be very difficult to cut through. I can't see many people wanting to cut through those streets to try to have to go through to get from Cornhusker down to Willow Springs or 25th into Willow Springs. I don't know how much impact this development would have. I think anyone that's cutting through now, you're probably going to have those same people that would cut through with or without this development. As far as any connection with the new street, on that site plan, you can see Wolf Creek Drive identified to the north. Again, that's our future connection. We're in the preliminary stages, so if it will all lay out from an engineering standpoint, if it will work with slope, if it will work with OPPD, the city plans on having the engineering for that street in our upcoming CIP, our capital improvement plan, and it would be budgeted for construction the year after. Again, this is all temporary. This is all preliminary. These conversations and these ideas just started happening within the last month. One of the reasons that we wouldn't have it connect is we don't want that connection from the commercial area, and also you're dealing with some slope, some grade. From an engineering standpoint, doesn't necessarily make sense. So there's all those different things to consider. As far as speed limit on 25th Street, again, that's something that the city looks at depending on traffic counts, depending on how the street's classified, whether it's an arterial collector. There's certain engineering guidelines. There's certain industry standards as far as what that speed limit should be. And most definitely, that's not to say that wouldn't change with more traffic and with more development. Yes, that speed limit could be reduced at some point in the future. Gas line, yes, there's a gas line easement that runs through the middle. It doesn't necessarily alter connection, but that just means that no buildings or no structures can be put there. Again, that's why you're seeing the layout that you're seeing, so that that easement is left free of any units or any buildings. As far as density, what Redwood is showing is about 4 3/4 units per acre. In your current neighborhood, which is zoned RS84, RS72, that would allow for typically 3 to 4 units per acre. So it's very compatible to what you would see with a typical single-family residential neighborhood. Again, our future land use map shows it as medium density residential, which by definition, what the developer is showing does meet that as well. So it is in line with the future comprehensive plan. As far as landscaping, yes, there is a landscape maintenance agreement that exists. Before the developer gets any certificate of occupancies, they are required to sign a landscape maintenance agreement that stays on file with the city. And what that says, if any plantings die, they're required to replace them. So that is something that's enforceable over time. We also do things like landscaping bonds as well, just to ensure that that landscaping gets put in and that it gets maintained and gets taken care of over time. There are certain buffer yard requirements for landscaping. That's why you will see plantings along the north side. You will see plantings along the west side. Those are required. I will let the developer's engineer go ahead and explain the dry detention ponds that are shown. I could do it, but he could probably do a better job of it, explaining how those are designed to, you know, what period of time they're designed to hold and slowly release the water. Main thing is, with a development, they can't come in and they cannot increase the amount of water flow that is currently going into your neighborhood. So there are currently measures in place, there are regulations in place, there are guidelines in place that say they have to capture the first half inch of runoff and it has to slowly release over a period of time. So that's part of why you're seeing those dry detention ponds, is because they're meeting watershed requirements that are in place throughout the Papio watershed and the Omaha area. But again, I'll let Mr. Coolidge speak more to that as far as water and the release. Other than that, I think I hit most of the questions, and I'll let the developer go ahead and answer any further questions about the development.
Good evening, I'm John Coolidge with Lamprey Nearson, 14710 West Dodge Road, Omaha, Nebraska, here on behalf of Redwood. And thank you to the neighbors for your input. You know, we tried to meet with staff to work through these issues. I guess if we could just show the site plan again, I really want to talk about, you know, what we tried to do to limit access and through routing through the project. Again, we believe that the connection to the south was required. We needed a connection to the west to 25th Street. I talk about the ENA project, but I probably wouldn't know what I was saying. So anyway, so we have the connection to the south and we have a connection to the west. We purposely did not want to make the connection to the north to have the commercial traffic routing through our site. In addition, as Tammy noted, we tried to make it a circuitous route that you couldn't just drive straight through, and it does not promote cutting through, using that as a cut-through route. So in terms of the detention basins, before I leave that, and so the through route on the north would potentially connect to that 23rd Street, but again, we would not have a connection to that. So that would sort of help that situation to the north and isolate it from our development as well as to the residents to the south. So hopefully that helps solve a problem and doesn't add to an existing or make anything worse down to the south. Tammy pretty much nailed it in terms of what we do for drainage. As you look at the south, the water runs from north to south, so you have to treat the water, capture it, and release it at no faster rate than it did before you develop it. So now that you've introduced rooftops and concrete, you need to have a basin that can fill up during a rain event and then slowly drain out over 24 hours. And we make sure that they do drain out to dry within 24 or 30 hours so that they can't be mosquito ponds and that they're maintained as dry basins. One other thing that was talked about, the setbacks, there is a 35-foot setback adjacent to the Menards to the east side there. So we've got 35 feet along there, and there isn't a dimension, but it's approximately 70 feet on the south to the single building that's on the south side. In terms of fence, we can talk to Redwood and see if that's an applicable thing for additional buffering, but we haven't decided that as yet, as I understand it. So I think that talks about the points that I made a note of.
Sure. Thanks, John. Thanks for everyone for your comments. Our goal is to be a neighbor for a very long time and to be neighborly. The core values that I showed everyone in the beginning are very real. It's who we are. We'd be happy. I know we've designed a great deal of buffering, and that's kind of, to me, the only thing that is yet to really be discussed in any detail. But we'd be happy to talk about alternative solutions or additions to that. We don't know what that would be right now. We'd want to hear more feedback, but we're happy to talk about that. So I thank you for your consideration.
Commissioners, thoughts?
I guess my initial thoughts on the plan and seeing it, it seems like having 131 units is a lot less dense than what we could see. I know for anybody in the neighborhood, you never want to see green space become developed. That's a fact of life, but for the reasons Ms. Palm indicated, the stub road there on Jamestown, those are designed, again, we knew at some point that would be developed, and it's taken many, many years because this is a tough site. It sits kind of down in that slope, and of course you got all the commercial on the north, which sits above it. So the plan that we see here, from my perspective, is a good plan. They're limited to 1 story. We just did a plan for apartments on Childs Road, which I believe on 4 acres, they put in as many units as you're seeing here, spread out over 26 acres. So again, don't want to convince you that this is better than it could be, but this is better than it could be if you had 3-story buildings in your backyard. Again, I do like the way they did the design so that you've got 2 access points when you're coming off of 25th Street. I agree with the developer that most people are not going to try to snake all the way in and across to the east side of the development and then snake back down to Jonestown Jamestown Road before they would try to go over to Walmart or something. Are you going to end up with some traffic coming through? Probably, just from people in the houses driving around different routes that they might want to go. But for the minimal impact to the neighborhoods around it, I see this as a good plan and appreciate the developer working with staff the last year to come up with this, and I'd be in favor of it.
Can I say applicant a question? You come back up. Yeah. I think one of the other comments we heard about was transient people living in multifamily. I think this is completely different than transient, than an apartment complex that's 4 stories high. You mentioned your low rent, $1,700, I think you said. What's the other ranges? I mean, what's your high end?
So it would go up from there, and it'd probably touch $2,200-$2,300. And that's our starting rents. That's what we start leasing our apartments for during construction. They will go up from there. When we do the math backwards and look at the value or the dollars that you could use to buy a home, it equates to about a $250,000 to $300,000 home, depending on taxes and depending on the specific unit.
I think I guess my comment was you made a comment about the transient nature of multifamily, and I think this might be a little bit different than that. Like I said, this could be 3 stories high with all surface parking and lots of kids and stuff. And so I think even that price point is going to put you more than where most single or multifamilies are.
One good thing about being at Redwood is when we say something, it's very easy to verify, and we encourage everyone to do that. And I often find that when they do verify what we're telling them, they often find that we're truthful and honest and that what we're saying is correct. Thank you.
If there's no other questions or comments, I'd be prepared to make a motion.
Mr. Ackley?
Hearing none. I would recommend approval of this application based on conformance with the zoning ordinance, subdivision regulations, and the comprehensive plan, as well as a lack of perceived negative impact on the surrounding area.
Second. Motion by Ackley, second by Casey.
Do we need to include in that motion something about changing the updating the comp plan, the future, is that within this application?
No, because it's already medium density residential, so we're fine.
Okay.
Ask one more question, because I guess in all of this, there wasn't a discussion of.
Real quick, we closed the public hearing,
Okay,
so.
time frame. I guess I'll ask you directly again, outside here, because there's been no mention of time frame whatsoever.
All voted yes, motion carried.
This item will go for public hearing in front of the city council on July 20th. All right, that concludes our public hearings tonight. There's no current business listed. Unless there's some to add, I would ask for a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Motion by Cutsworth. Second by Arnie.
All voted yes, motion carried.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Drive